24-hour game challenges are cool and all, but let's be honest, they are kind of basic by now. So this week I'll do exactly that 7 times. The rules are simple. For a week straight I'll create a brand new game every single day. And to make it more interesting, I had ChatGPT choose the themes for each day. On to the first day. Alright, it's day 1, and the theme is Stay in the Light. Okay, so here's the plan. It'll be a game about killing monsters, but the only way to kill these monsters is by flashing light at them. In case you don't do so, you will die from combustion. First, I made the pixel art. Say hello to Dave and Larry. I then made a new Unity project, added a background and Dave to the project and began working on the lighting. Except... oh my god, I forgot you. Yeah, that's looking way better now. Next up were the enemies. Super simple. They just needed to follow the player around, so nothing too fancy there. After some fiddling with the lighting, I realized it worked way better when you could only see where your flashlight was pointing. Way more interesting too. I added the shrinking flashlight mechanic so the light gets smaller over time. Afterwards, I simply added a few minor details as well as some music I whipped up in FL Studio. So all said and done, this is the final game. It's officially day 2 and let's see the next theme. The floor is ice. Alright, here's the plan. A racing game where you have to drive around an icy track as fast as possible without spinning out. I started with the pixel art. First I made the icy track itself, some blockades, these yellowish bouncy things, and of course, the most awesomest car you've ever seen. Oh, and I also drew these little guys. So far they'll just be moral support, I guess. Then I jumped into a new project and started building a simple track layout. Next, I worked on the movement mechanics. It took some tweaking, but eventually the driving felt just slippery enough to feel icy without being impossible to control. I used the yellow squares as bouncy pads and added walls around the track to keep you from flying off into the void. I also added a finish line and spent some time fiddling with triggers to track your laps around the track. Finally, I added some UI and tried to make my own music as I did for the last game, but it turned out like this. So instead I'll just use this track I found on YouTube. And just like that, day 2 is done. Oh wait, one last thing. Remember the moral support? Yeah, they've got a new purpose. Getting run over to shave a bit of time off your lap. Anyway, here is the finished game. So today went pretty smoothly, but let's see if that's also the case for tomorrow. Let's start by revealing the theme. Keep it spinning. Okay, the first thing that popped into my head was those circus performers spinning plates on sticks. So the game will be about keeping a plate spinning on a stick while obstacles come flying in from all directions. Just like last time, I started with the pixel art. And let me tell you, making a spinning plate animation is way harder than I thought. Next, I built a quick prototype where I could hit the plate around. But yeah, it didn't feel right at all. A few minutes later, I accidentally made this. Yeah, it's completely broken, but it gave me an idea. So I remade the game again, and this time I decided to switch things up a bit. My idea is to make a throwing slingshot-like mechanic that will protect the spinning plate from floating basketballs. So I started by making this slingshot-like mechanic, but it really didn't work as I intended, so I kept tweaking it until I had this. Which was pretty much what I wanted, except that the ball kept getting stuck on the walls, but that problem fixed itself somehow. Next, I had to make the basketballs fly in from all sides, and this was fairly simple since I just stole a script from an older project. I drew a tree and then stuck the plate to the tip of the tree. I then made the plate fly off when it was hit by a basketball. And in case you don't catch it afterwards, it will be game over. I finished by giving the plates some animations and some sound effects, and all said and done, this is the finished game. Okay, it's day 4. Let's reveal the theme. Everything breaks. I initially had no idea what to do with this, but I just started working on something anyway. The first thing that came to my mind was bombs, so I proceeded to spend way too much time adding them. These both functioned as projectiles and as movement. Next, I needed something to break, so I again spent way too long figuring out how to make these crates explode. And somehow I managed to spend the entire day adding these 2 features. So here is the final version. This was kind of embarrassing, so let's just skip straight to day 5. Alright, so it's day 5, let's just reveal the theme. Everything follows you. So for this one, I wanted to create a game inspired by those terrible mobile games. The idea is simple. You lead a crowd across a road with cars speeding in from both sides. And your goal is to get as many people to the other side as possible, without them getting penalty. As always, I started with the pixel art. I made these chunky looking cars, some cracked roads, warning signs, and these tiny little people. Then made a new Unity project and created a system so every little person would follow the main game object controlled by the player. After that, I set up arrays for spawn locations. There are 6 designated spawn points for the cars and warning signs. So cars spawn randomly and keep things unpredictable. I used Unity's particle system to make a blood splatter effect when the people were run over. At the moment, the game looks terrible. So I spent some time polishing it up and making it look a little bit prettier. Finally, I wrapped things up by adding some animations and sound effects to bring the game to life. And that's it. Here is the final game. On to day 6. Let's see the theme. Gravity is your enemy. Okay, so for this one, I had a pretty straightforward idea. A game where you control gravity. But to really nail the enemy part, I decided to make it a puzzle platformer, where you don't have full control over gravity. Instead, you have to use levers to manipulate it. So I got to work, starting, as always, with the pixel art. This time I attempted something completely new, making an actual character. Not a 6-pixel stick figure or an orange dog person, an actual character. I watched tutorials from this guy, tried my best to follow along, and after a lot of fiddling I ended up with this. I kinda love this guy. Anyway, onto the game making. First, I made it possible to switch gravity in any direction using a button press. Then I worked on the map for a bit, following which I made this useless box. Following that I made the levers. The player can interact with these to switch gravity in a specific direction. Getting the levers to feel right took some time, but I eventually got there. I added some extra levers and some sound effects, but unfortunately I didn't have any more time afterwards. So here is the final game. It really could have used some animations, but you know, it is what it is. So let's just skip straight on to day number 7, the final day. Alright, we finally reached the last day. Let's see the theme. Switch places. So with this, I want to make a game where the player can switch between different objects in a house, and hopefully I'll have time to give each object its own special ability. So first thing first, since I can't do modeling, I found this cool asset which I will be using for this game. I then made the player movement, but as you can see, it moved really weirdly. The reason for this is that I, for some unknown reason, decided that this game had to be in third person. And I, in fact, don't know how to do that. Because of this, I ran into a lot of problems, and I am not too good with solutions, so I usually just find workarounds. And what you are witnessing is in fact one of these workarounds in full effect. But next I worked on the switching to objects mechanic. And except for the fact that it took me all day, I'm pretty satisfied with the result. Finally, I added jumping, a couple different things to switch between, and sound effects. Sadly, I didn't have any more time, so here it is. The final game. And with that, it's done. 7 games in 7 days. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend doing this to anyone, and I would be lying if I said I didn't almost give up on day 4. But in the end, I'm kinda satisfied. I really do wish that I had more time for some of these games, but if I had to choose, the game I liked the most was definitely day 2's game, and I think the best mechanic was the switch from day 7. Thanks again for watching. Hopefully I'll see you again next video.